fear generates fear, and when you look back on some things that you're afraid of, then you wonder why you were the way you were.
What you're doing is you're believing the devil and you're believing a lie. You're all liars. You're the ones that are committing murder. It's because of you that this disease is spreading throughout the country.
I have no desire to sleep with any bisexual men at all, period.
I have no way of getting in contact with it, I don't think.
Medical news, a potentially fatal disease unknown just months ago is spreading so quickly that doctors now say it's a national epidemic.
A world with AIDS was very scary, very sad, quite devastating.
I've seen that world. It's dark, it's sad, especially since we know that there's so much that can be prevented.
The judgment back then was, oh my God, it was unbelievable. It was especially harsh. And people just weren't educated about it. They were afraid. They were very fearful of HIV and AIDS. Somebody literally told me one day, well, that's what those people deserve. And it's like, are you serious?
It was a long time before President Reagan actually talked about what was happening in sort of the population.
I'm here to protest Ronald Reagan. That is insidious policy that is literally about to destroy the planet.
And I don't blame those who were out marching and protesting to get AIDS drugs released, and we'll supply help and hope as quickly as we can.
It is people dying of AIDS. It is people still dying of AIDS in the United States and throughout the world. It doesn't have to be this way.
At any given moment, there are about 38 million people in the world living with HIV, which means more than half of that look like me.
We want to end the epidemic, but we're still not seeing the structures and the funding realistically in place for us to actually get to a place where we can end the epidemic.
Our nations have the ability and therefore the duty to confront this grave public health crisis.
We can do this. We can eliminate HIV transmission. We can get the epidemic under control.
Even today, having, a few years ago been at bedsides, when we have a new diagnosis of HIV and that patient is actually diagnosed with AIDS at the same time, in my mind, that's a medical failure. That's a social and medical failure.
From ABC News Live, Viral, a world without AIDS. Here now, Juju Chang and Alex Perez from the AIDS Memorial in New York City.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juju Chang.
And I'm Alex Perez. December is HIV/AIDS Awareness Month, and there's something important we wanted to let you know. It is possible, a world without an AIDS epidemic.
And it wasn't that long ago when a world without AIDS felt worlds away.
Families were torn apart. Those with HIV were social outcasts. And back when there was little research on the virus, HIV led to AIDS and was by all accounts considered a death sentence.
But there has been remarkable progress in the last 4 decades. And although stigma still exists, most people are no longer whispering the word AIDS when grieving a loved one lost to the virus. Thanks to outreach programs and national awareness campaigns sparked by protest slogans like Silence Equals Death and Act Up, Fight AIDS, what was once a whisper has now become a sounding drum.
And Juju, the introduction of this highly effective little pill known as pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP, prevention has become the key to greatly reducing the risk of contracting and spreading HIV.
So yes, a world without AIDS is possible. And over the next half hour here at the New York City AIDS Memorial, ground zero for the AIDS epidemic in New York City, we stand to honor the ones we've lost and celebrate the incredible progress we've made. You're about to meet someone who knows exactly what it's like to lose their best friend to AIDS. Miss Tina Knowles Lawson. She sat down with us to share the story of her nephew, John Rittenhouse, affectionately called Uncle Johnny by her daughters, Beyoncé and Solange. Uncle Johnny lost his battle to the virus in the late 1990s, before modern life-saving treatments were available. Today, we also have PrEP, that drug that can prevent HIV infection in the first place.
The truth is, many of us have someone we loved, like Uncle Johnny, in our lives who never had access to PrEP. But fortunately, there's now an entire army of PrEP warriors whose mission is to make sure we never lose another Uncle Johnny again.
So here's a powerful look at the ones we've lost and the warriors inspired by their legacies, their passion helping spark the remarkable evolution of medicines that now treat and prevent HIV. It's the late 80s. Thousands dying of an invisible enemy. Fear running rampant. Many are demanding something be done.
Spend the money, test the drugs, cut the red tape.
Amid the anger and the anguish, a desire to remember and honor the once vibrant lives lost to AIDS.
I get very emotional about it, and I think about the people I wish were here.
At our nation's capital, a quilt stretching across the National Mall as far as the eye can see. Each colorful square representing a person whose time was cut short.
Johnny was my best friend growing up. Johnny was a light. Johnny was the funniest person in the whole world.
Miss Tina Knowles Lawson, mom to one of the world's most famous women, Beyoncé. That's her Uncle Johnny to the right. Miss Tina is transported back in time, remembering her nephew Johnny. But the two were close in age, almost like siblings, finding a common bond in their love for fashion.
We were designers, we were hairstylists, we were makeup artists. We just had a ball together. He made me laugh more than anybody else that I've ever seen in my life. I found out that Johnny had AIDS through him being hospitalized. And I went to see him. We had no forewarning.
That diagnosis devastating to the entire family, who considered Johnny their centerpiece.
I want to dedicate this award to my Uncle Johnny, the most fabulous gay man I've ever known and I ever knew.
I told him that, that he would never be alone and that everybody would be there with them. Because at the time, when people were diagnosed, they died.
People you'd see on the street who'd be there one day and gone the next. That was what we were facing throughout the 1990s.
Damon Jacobs was in his early 20s, living in San Francisco at the height of the epidemic. He watched his friends disappear.
Give us a sense of your friends and your loved ones who you lost to the AIDS epidemic.
One of my best friends in the world was named John. We lived together for 5 years. He was like a brother to me, and he was only 30 years old. And he was gone a week later.
While most associated AIDS with a virus transmitted by men having sex with other men, it quickly became clear HIV could strike anyone.
AIDS has made the headlines again. The great American tennis player Arthur Ashe made it clear here in New York today that he very much would have preferred to keep it a private matter.
I remember walking into my first year med school lecture hall, and everybody was poring over the newspaper, and it was the news of Magic Johnson having HIV.
I will have to retire from the Lakers.
Dr. Rochelle Walensky, now CDC Director, back then was fresh out of medical school, part of the community rushing to understand HIV/AIDS. But advancements weren't coming fast enough.
What was it like as a physician not having anything you could give them to save them?
What you could do was you could give them grace. You could give them comfort. You could give them pride.
Were there moments in that battle that stay with you to this day?
Once patients' families recognize that they might be gay and have HIV, many patients did not, their families abandoned them. And, holding someone's hand.
Holding someone's hand when their family
is not there.
Is not there.
I mean, people were afraid to be in a room with somebody, and it was just a lot of misinformation, it was a lot of judgment, it was a lot of hatred, and very little compassion from some people for these people who were actually amazing human beings that were suffering and dying.
The virus targets the immune system, killing by attacking a type of white blood cell, making it hard for someone to fight infections and disease. The virus presents itself in blood, breast milk, semen, vaginal fluids, and can be transmitted when those bodily fluids from an infected person are shared. Since the start of the epidemic, 84.2 million people have become infected with HIV globally, and more than 40 million people have died from AIDS-related illnesses.
To lose someone and to witness them decompensate so close up, to lose their physical and mental faculties, was traumatizing.
6 years after the first reported AIDS cases in the U.S., the first step forward came in 1987 with the approval of the drug AZT, inhibiting the HIV virus from replicating, a glimmer of hope.
All of a sudden, patients who you could say, we don't have anything for you, and you would hold their hands as they were passing. The same kind of patient, you could say, you might live with this.
35 years later, HIV no longer has to be a death sentence. Sophisticated antivirals can lower viral loads to undetectable, which means untransmittable. U equals U. And a whole new lease on life came in the form of a so-called miracle drug, successfully preventing HIV infection. Now in its 10th year on the market, that little pill going by the name PrEP. Its official name, pre-exposure prophylaxis. PrEP, made up of 2 antiretroviral ingredients, works to block the enzyme needed by the HIV virus to replicate. According to the CDC, when taken daily or properly on demand before sex, PrEP reduces the risk of getting HIV from sex by about 99%. Pharmaceutical company Gilead makes both Truvada and Descovy. We traveled to its headquarters in Foster City, California, a part of the AIDS quilt on display, a testament to just how far we've come.
We have a vision to end the epidemic for everyone, everywhere.
In the past, PrEP has been criticized for being an expensive drug. Jared Baton addressing the concerns.
PrEP is covered by insurance, both public and private. And for individuals who don't have insurance, federal government support and patient assistance programs from manufacturers like Gilead can make PrEP free.
The CDC recommends PrEP for people who don't have HIV and are at risk of getting HIV from sex or injection drug use. And the advancements keep coming, including the FDA's 2021 approval of the first injectable form of PrEP, replacing a daily pill with a shot given every 2 months.
Do you see the future as more options?
We only have 30% of eligible people who are taking it. So it is not only just that they want more options, it is that we are not reaching the hardest to reach populations. Part of that is challenges with drug pricing, part of that is challenges with trust.
How do we raise awareness in
women?
In heterosexual folks? How do you message that?
So much of what we are doing is information and education, letting people know that this is available to them, women as well, and really having people understand what it is that might put them at risk.
While PrEP itself does not prevent sexually transmitted infections, the extra doctor's visits required every 3 months for monitoring could help prevent unknowingly spreading them. For those contemplating starting PrEP, I asked my producer, Nathan, who'd just begun PrEP himself, to talk with Damon about lingering reluctance.
Some people may feel this hesitation to get on PrEP. Perhaps they don't feel like they're worthy of PrEP. Why would that be, and what do you say to those people?
I think there's a hesitation and reluctance for people to use PrEP because sex itself is stigmatized in our society. So for me, the act of using a daily pill to prevent HIV is a way that I show self-love for myself. It is a power that I did not have for the first 20+ years of my sexual life. I have full control over whether I get HIV or not, which is not something I ever had. So I started using this on July 19th, 2011, and have been taking it daily ever since. And there we go. It's as easy as that. Now I'm protected from HIV today, no matter what happens.
What do you think the loved ones you lost would say, knowing you're out here doing this? You've been on PrEP for 10 years now. What do you think they would say to you?
I think my loved ones would be proud. Their deaths were not in vain. I said it to John before he died because he didn't think his life had mattered. I promised him the day before he died, your life matters to me and I will honor that any way I could, any way I can. It never has to happen. And it's still happening today. People are still dying and those who love them are still hurting and grieving.
I think Johnny's message today would be take your meds and take good care of yourself because he didn't have that opportunity.
Years later, history still remembers those precious lives cut short. Johnny now immortalized in Beyoncé's latest album, Renaissance.
Uncle Johnny made my dress that cheap spandex, she looks a mess.
A sound, a style, a feeling inspired by her beloved Uncle Johnny.
He was brave and unapologetic during a time when this country wasn't as accepting. And witnessing his battle with HIV was one of the most painful experiences I've ever lived. I'm hopeful that his struggle served to open pathways for other young people to live more freely.
She's always wanted to do a house music record because they would get in my little convertible, put the top down, and turn this house music up, and they would just ride around. So that introduced Beyoncé and Solange to house music. So whenever they hear house music, they think of Johnny. I'm sure he's in heaven loving the fact that he's famous now.
Alex, you're still younger than I am, but I distinctly remember growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area and watching journalists shine a light on this terrible new virus. It's an honor now to tell these stories and ask us all to realize that a world without AIDS is possible.
Indeed it is. Thank you very much, Juju. Now, coming up, more than 40 years since the onset of the HIV epidemic, the fight to end debilitating HIV stigma continues. When we come back, we hear some of those crucial conversations that are key to help stop the stigma.
From ABC News Live, Viral, A World Without AIDS. Here again, Juju Chang and Alex Perez from the AIDS Memorial in New York City.
And welcome back. We've learned that the mission to rid the world of HIV/AIDS has really ramped up over the last decade with the introduction of PrEP. In fact, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has set a goal to end the HIV epidemic in the United States by 2030 by leveraging critical scientific advances in HIV prevention.
But Juju, this goal is not achievable simply through critical medicine and treatment options. It is only possible by engaging in out and open and honest conversations that help dismantle stigmatization. We invite you to be a part of that conversation now.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Today is World AIDS Day, a day we reaffirm our commitment to fight HIV/AIDS at home and abroad.
We are continuing the work of crafting a coordinated, measurable national HIV/AIDS strategy to stem and suppress this epidemic.
We can do this. We can eliminate HIV transmission. We can get the epidemic under control here in the United States and in countries around the world.
Real tight.
Thank you. It's been more than 40 years since the U.S. saw its first few cases of HIV.
I actually see myself fading away.
The initial outbreak was seemingly treated as a joke by the Reagan administration. A documentary by Scott Kalanico called When AIDS Was Funny shows that administration's callous attitude in revealing audio of Press Secretary Larry Speakes and the media laughing about the virus.
Does the president have any reaction to the announcement of the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta that AIDS is now an epidemic, over 600 cases? And over a third of them are died. It's known as gay plague.
Would you come out and play?
Since the start of the epidemic, some 84 million people of all colors and sexual orientations have been affected by HIV, and the world has been forced to listen. Atlanta, home to one of the highest rates of HIV infections in the world. Although the percentage of those living across the U.S. with undiagnosed HIV has been steadily decreasing, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, there are still 13% of those living with HIV who are unaware they are positive, making education on testing all the more paramount. Sister Love is an Atlanta-based organization that focuses on preventing and advocating for women affected by HIV/AIDS.
More than half of the HIV epidemic in the world is women, where in the United States, women are about 1 in 20, 1 in 25 people who are living with HIV.
Regardless of your test results, Sister Love promises to find a way to link you with proper care and treatment, which can be expensive for those without insurance, some estimates going upwards of $2,500 a month. But testing has come a long way since the 80s. New technologies have made it so you can get your results within 20 minutes and in the comfort of your own home.
I often say, even though the technology around HIV and AIDS has changed, the treatment around HIV and AIDS has changed, the one thing that still has not changed is the stigma.
Racial and ethnic minorities have significantly higher rates of HIV, in part due to stigma and cultural shame. Major inequities, including poverty and healthcare access, contribute to the Black and Hispanic communities being disproportionately affected when compared to their population size. 50% of new HIV cases in the U.S. occur among Black and Latino, gay, and bisexual men, most concentrated in the South.
It's a combination of being able to address stigma, being very intentional about not creating anything that diminishes folks' sense of wholeness, sense of dignity and justice.
Tina Knowles Lawson believes her nephew Johnny's suffering was even more painful because he was Black and from the South.
I think being a Black queer man back in the 90s was a whole lot more difficult than it is now. In so many ways. People weren't as educated. They were way more judgmental.
Viruses are pieces of genetic material, RNA or DNA, wrapped in a layer of fat. They don't have any sentience. They don't know the difference between people. And so they don't make a judgment. It's people outside who make judgments about folks based on viruses. And that's how you create stigma and the barriers that result in bad outcomes of HIV.
The stigmatization of HIV in 96 is definitely different than it is today. I mean, we still have that stigma, but back then it was even worse.
Brandy Velasquez was diagnosed with HIV when she was just 15 years old, contracting the virus from her high school boyfriend. A few years later, they would have a daughter, Daniela. The stigma against the virus caused her family and friends to ostracize her, and she struggled to find a community. It wasn't until Brandy was in her late 20s that she found a support group.
10 years. 10 years of isolation. You think about, you don't talk to anybody, but your partner, your family don't talk to you about it. They pretend it doesn't exist in your life.
Brandy and her boyfriend ultimately broke up, and she eventually found and married Jason, who is HIV negative. She still takes her HIV medication. Her husband has decided to not take PrEP, a medication for people who are HIV negative that can prevent transmission.
I think PrEP is really great for people out there that need it. For us, it's him and I, and he just says, like, I don't want to take medication.
When taken as prescribed, HIV medications can decrease the amount of HIV present in a person's blood, leading to undetectable viral loads. Being undetectable prevents HIV from progressing and allows those infected to live long and healthy lives without transmitting the virus to sexual partners. Brandy and Jason celebrated their 21st anniversary this past September, and despite never taking PrEP, Jason has remained negative.
Here's Magic.
They're not the only ones who are proving modern HIV medication works to prevent transmission. Wife of legendary basketball player Magic Johnson, Cookie Johnson, remains HIV negative to this day because of Magic's adherence to his treatment. Their example, along with other celebrities like Billy Porter and Jonathan Van Ness, have helped to dispel stigmas and make a once taboo conversation more common.
U equals U it's science. It's the science, which basically states that a person who has an undetectable status can no longer transmit the virus to sexual partners.
I often think about if the medicines were available back in the time when Johnny was sick, how different things would be. He'd probably be here with us today, but they weren't.
You know, at the end of the day, there's three things that end epidemics. There's science, community engagement, and political will. You have to have all three things there. And so how can we get the political will to make sure that access to PrEP is better?
You are so young in my hand.
About 40 million people around the world, including 700,000 in the United States, have died from AIDS-related illness.
Together, we're going to save lives.
Biden administration has pledged to lead us toward ending the HIV epidemic in the United States by 2030.
My prayer is that AIDS and HIV is eradicated completely, and I feel that it's in the reach. It's so important to know your status because you can get help. It's not a hopeless situation anymore.
And Juju, so many of my own friends who are positive had told me that the stigma can be such a burden, it sometimes feels like they're fighting two illnesses at once. A sincere thank you to all the brave folks who shared those deeply personal stories with us as the battle to end the stigma associated with HIV continues.
Alex, thanks for sharing that. And thank you as we remember all those we lost to HIV/AIDS who were not able to share their stories with us.
We honor the legacy you left behind, and it's because of you that we are now closer than ever to a world without AIDS.
So, from the New York City AIDS Memorial, I'm Juju Chang.
And I'm Alex Perez. Take care of yourself and each other.
Every day, I envision a world without AIDS. I've worked my whole career on HIV prevention, care and treatment of people living with HIV, and working with communities to end this epidemic.
A world without AIDS looks healthy, looks fun, looks celebratory, and looks like a place where we could start to heal from some trauma.
Wow, a world without HIV is so much brighter. There's so much less suffering that would happen in a world without HIV, so much less stigma, so much less judgment.
A world without AIDS is one less horrible disease that affects so many people. There was a stigma that it affected one group of people, but that is absolutely not true. It's affected people, straight people, it's affected women, it's affected men, it's affected families. It's not for one group of people that it affects. And a world without it would just be such a better place for us all.